Welcome to Rewiring Health. This podcast is for those of you who have an eating disorder, chronic pain, or both. In this channel, we'll dive deep into inspirational stories of those who have healed from both and also get into the mind-body connection and how we can heal the mind through the body and also heal the body through the mind. Come and join me on this journey. When I was reviewing the recording of this podcast, it occurred to me that I really need to make a very clear distinction because I use the example of if you're trying to increase your physical activity and the amount of time that you're doing it, how you can do that. But the clear distinction I want to make is that more activity is not always better. And that really is so important to note because for me, it was about decreasing the amount of physical activity that actually served me in the long run. So during my eating disorder, the nature of my eating disorder was that I was excessively exercising. I was addicted to exercise. It was my coping mechanism and it limited me in so many ways because I would not be social with people. I would just go out and run and go to the gym. And I spent all my days doing this. And so for me, the thing that moved me forward was actually decreasing this. And for me, it was a struggle to not exercise for hours on end. That was the difficult part in creating habits that where I wouldn't exercise for hours. So when I talk about making habits so small, and you'll hear this if you listen to the rest of the episode, but making changes in your habits so small that then you build on there. For me, it wasn't about increasing my exercise time. It was actually decreasing how much I was exercising by just 1 minute a day. And it may sound silly, but for anyone who's struggled with exercise addiction, decreasing exercise time can facilitate a lot of anxiety and stress. So for me, starting out so small and again, just limiting my exercise by just 1 minute a day was tough for me. And that's why starting small has really served me and allowed me to get to the point where I don't have that addictive relationship with exercise. And after many years of reframing my perspective and my beliefs, I now have a healthy relationship with exercise. I've been able to reframe everything that I believed. And back then, I believed more is better and that nothing I did was good enough. For me now, I look at exercise as a means for appreciating my body, what it's capable of, and it makes me feel good inside. And I'm not doing it for the reasons I was doing it back then. So I felt it was really important to make that distinction because when you listen to the podcast and me listening back on it, I reference going to the gym and increasing activity. And for some people, that may be the goal, but I needed to make it very clear that it's not always the goal and that does not always define being better by exercising more. So for whatever you are listening this for and what your purpose is, just know that sometimes decreasing activity or taking things out of your routine is just as important as implementing it and putting things in your routine. So I want to make that very clear before you listen to this episode because for me it was very different than always adding more and more and more. So I wanted to make that clear distinction as you progress through this podcast. So thanks again. Hope you enjoy the episode. I'm sure we've all had that goal that we wanted to stick to or this habit we wanted to implement in our lives and we go in full force, we're gung ho about it. Maybe it's about joining a gym and sticking to an exercise routine, or maybe it's drinking so much water a day, or whatever it is that you want to try to implement to your life. And you get into it and you're going strong, you're feeling good about yourself, and then it kind of starts to wane out and eventually you kind of just give up on it. And then you come down on yourself because you're like, I spent all this time and effort doing it. And then I just kind of gave up on this goal that I was trying to implement. And then it becomes this like vicious cycle of like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I ever stick to something? Or why do I always fall back into my old habits? And what I'm going to talk to you about today are the things I have learned through myself and through the people that I've worked with as far as what works with habit implementation and what does not work with habit implementation so that you can apply it to your own life and see what maybe some of the strategies you've tried that why these aren't working for you and how you can change up strategies so that if you want to make a change in your life, you can do that in a way that serves you and it does not cause overwhelm. So some of the things I'm going to start out with talking about that I've seen not work, including myself and with people I've worked with, is that you try to do too much too soon. You try to overhaul your life. So if you've never worked out in your life and now you have this goal of doing an hour a day for 6 days a week at the gym, it's going to be too much of a change too quickly. So our brains are wired to resist anything that is new, anything that is not efficient, anything that is kind of unknown. And so for you, if you feel like you want to make this change, but you're jumping in too much and trying to implement too big of a change, your brain is actually going to resist that. So you're actually going to be working against yourself in implementing that goal. So that is one big mistake that people tend to do, is that they try to overhaul their lives, and it can work for a few weeks, but eventually your own resistance within your brain is going to win out. And going in combination with that, another big mistake that people make is that they rely on willpower alone. So willpower, again, can work really great for the first few weeks, but what does willpower take? It requires energy. So if you're going to rely on willpower, you're essentially draining your tank. So you can do that for maybe a week or two or a month if you're really good at it. But eventually that energy that you're putting into having that willpower will win out. And again, that combination of trying to do too much too soon and rely on willpower is just setting yourself up for failure. And so that's really the big things that people do when they try to make any big life changes, that they have the combination of those. And then eventually it's inevitable that nothing will stick because there's too much resistance and there's too much energy that's required to continue down that path. The other big mistake that people make is that they live in the past. So they wake up and they may be thinking of everything that happened yesterday, or maybe thinking of everything that's happened a year ago, or what's going on, within their family, their job, all the stressful things that are happening in their life. They wake up and that's the first thing they think about. And so what that does is just, it makes the wiring that you have in your brain even more concrete, stronger. So the person you are today and the person you were a year ago, they become the same person. So you're not moving your brain forward to become a new version of yourself. You're living in the past and then just continuing to strengthen those connections. And then you continue down the same path that you've always known. And that then again becomes a real issue when we talk about growth and evolving in yourself, because that's the same path you've always gone down and it's known. So your brain actually wants to continue with what you've always done because it's known, it's efficient. Your brain's really good at being the person it's always been. So it doesn't want to change that. So again, that resistance is less. So you have this propensity to continue patterns that you've always had. And those are the biggest things that I see that continue people in being the same person that they've always been, and sometimes failing at changing anything for the long term. So it can seem a little overwhelming. Okay, well, how do we change this? How do we make it so that I actually can evolve and grow as a person? Because innately, that's what we are designed to do. We're never designed to be stagnant. And the minute you feel like that you're not evolving or growing as a person, you feel that. You feel like you're not serving yourself to the point where you are feeling fulfilled. You may feel like everything kind of feels empty, or you were meant for more and you're just not living up to your potential. And all those just facilitate these feelings that are just not good. And you don't want to feel like that long term. So how do we start moving ourselves in a direction that actually does serve us and allows us to evolve and grow? The biggest thing is starting small. So this was something I have had to learn throughout my life, and I've helped others implement into their life once I actually learned it myself. But this was a struggle for me because I felt like if I did something small, it's pointless. Like, what's the point in doing something so little like this? Like, I was kind of an all or none person. And I recognized that that mentality did not serve me. Like, I was either going to run 10 miles or I was doing nothing like that. It didn't matter if I did anything less than that. But really, I was working against myself. And that was really a wake up call for myself. So anything you're trying to implement, start as small as you need to, and as small as it would feel silly to say no to it. So if your goal is to start running, run for just 2 minutes and start with that. Because what happens is that momentum follows action. So once you take action, you will actually find you have more momentum with that. Say you want to get out in the morning sunlight, because sunlight has been shown to have a lot of benefits for circadian rhythm and helping you sleep at night. So really you want to try to do 5 to 30 minutes. That's ideal, but maybe that's too much to start. So maybe you just start by stepping out on your front porch for 30 seconds and you do that. And now you maybe work your way up to a minute, and then gradually it becomes just a habit where you do this every day, and you can stack it on top of, maybe you get your coffee that you're used to doing, grab your coffee, go outside, get your sunlight that way. But whatever it is that you want to implement, start as small as you absolutely need to and build from there. That's going to really serve you to implement these habits where you're not meeting that resistance because you're trying to do too much too soon. Another thing is combining things you don't like with things you like. So maybe you're not one who really likes to go for outdoor walks, and that's okay. But maybe you really like socializing with someone. So maybe you combine that. Like if you have a friend who likes to go out for walks and you really like hanging out with his friend, then maybe that's what you do, is invite them to go with you. And then now all of a sudden it becomes a social thing. So you didn't really like walking outside, but now you like being with your friend, and having that combination, your brain will automatically not have as much resistance to it because it's being rewarded, because you enjoy being with that friend. And now it's a reward circuitry that you're combining with something that used to be you used to be meeting resistance with. So again, that's something else that can work in your favor, is figuring out what you don't like to do and then combining it. Again, it could be, talking about not necessarily a habit, but maybe you have to clean the house and it's just something you have to do, but you don't really want to. And maybe you really enjoy listening to music. Well, now you can combine the music with cleaning the house. And again, your brain will have less resistance because you're rewarding yourself along with something that you already had to do. So whatever it is that you feel like is hard for you to implement, try to find something in the day that you enjoy and then combine those. And again, it's going to be very individualized, but using that framework of combining things that bring you pleasure and joy, along with things that are hard for you to implement, that melding together is going to make it more realistic to be consistent with it. The biggest thing I think by far, though, to implement long-lasting change is having the vision for who you want to be. And I think this is the biggest thing that I see with people, is that they're not even sure what their dream life is. They're living day in and day out, just kind of almost like Groundhog Day. Every day is the same. And they're almost living in a past version of themselves. But if you can take a moment every day and literally just dream, I think sometimes when we become adults, we forget that we can still dream and think of all these fun things that we would love to have in our lives. But we are so shrouded by what we think is realistic that we forget what it's like to actually dream. So if you have a child, just listen to your child for a second, because children are so good at this, at being creative and just letting everything come out and create what they want without feeling like what's technically realistic for them. So for you too, take a moment today, maybe it's right after you listen to this, close your eyes and think about what your dream life looks like, and make it as realistic as possible. Who are you with? What does it feel like? Where are you? What's the setting you're in? What do you smell? What do you hear? What are you looking at? What do you see? What's around you? what kind of work are you doing? Are you doing what you're already doing, but in a different context, or are you doing something completely different? Again, the biggest thing is to not be hindered by what you think is realistic. Allow yourself to dream as big as you possibly can and give yourself this trajectory, give yourself a vision to move forward towards. So we can literally recreate our life just by giving our brain some kind of food for thought in what we desire. So if we have wish-washy visions and wish-washy goals and dreams for our life, we will get wish-washy results. We won't really have things work in our favor towards that direction. So be as specific about who you want to become. Who are you? If someone was to say, hey, who's this, who you are, how would they describe you? And make that as clear cut as for who you want to become in every way, shape, and form. And then your life will start working in a way to meet your desires. But again, if you've never taken the time to think about that, you're going to get results that you've always gotten because that's efficient. That's what your brain and your body and your environment have formulated to become. So just take a moment to dream today and write it down. And then just let it be. So write it, make it specific, envision it, feel it, apply emotion to it, and then just let it be. And then revisit it periodically every day. Just revisit those thoughts and just give yourself 5 minutes to dream every single day. And you'll notice your life starts moving that direction. So again, the 3 things I would recommend, and I've seen work for many people, including myself, is start small as you need to. Combine what you don't want to do with what you want to do and have a clear-cut vision for the person you want to become, and then allow your life to unfold in the way that it was innately designed to. So I hope that serves you in moving you forward in your life. And thank you again for spending your precious time with me. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. Please leave a question, review, anything you'd like to contribute. I would absolutely love to hear from you. And if you found value in this, share it with someone who you also think would find value in it. Thank you again.
Thank you for spending your precious time to listen to this episode of Rewiring Health. My mission is to inspire hope and healing through science-backed practices. If you found value in this, please share with 3 people and leave a review. By doing so, this message can be spread to those who need to hear it most. Also, to get updates on the most recent episodes, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being part of this community, and I am forever grateful for you.